Okay, hi
Hi.
everyone. Welcome
Hi.
to our STEAM Passport virtual field trip series. My name is Ashley Lynn, and I'm the founder of Project Exchange, which is bringing you these field trips today. Our mission is to help every student access a meaningful cross-cultural learning experience as part of their education. And so leading our field trip today is Josephine, who is the Chief Technical Officer of Elris Communications Services, which is a telecommunications firm based in Nairobi, Kenya. After studying telecommunications engineering in Russia and the US, Josephine returned to Kenya to build a mobile network that is transforming lives in our country. And so today she will share her story on how culture, gender, and community identity has shaped her STEAM journey. So Josephine, it's all yours.
Hi. My name is Josephine Djirackor. I live in Nairobi, Kenya, and that's the eastern part of Africa. I originally come from a place called arid and semi-arid lands of Kenya, which is northwestern Kenya. I grew up there and I did my primary education there. In Kenya, we have 3 levels of education. We have primary, then secondary, which is high school, and then we have the tertiary, which is the university. So I did my primary school in Samburu County, which is northern Kenya. And then I was called to a national school, one of the best national schools in the country, called the Alliance Girls High School, where I didn't know anyone. Where I come from is very hot, and I was coming to a very cold place. I was like, oh God, help me. Anyway, I came and I was there for 6 years. I didn't know that I was being prepared for even colder weather. Well, when I was in primary school, when I was still at home, one of the things that used to really jazz me, or I really liked doing, is meddling with things like watches. At that time, digital watches had just come. We didn't have TVs yet in that region, but we had a radio. I remember we had a radio in our house, and I was always curious to know, who are these talking inside here? And I would rip it apart, but my mother would say, if it doesn't give me news in the evening, you will see. So I'd have to put it back together again so that she can listen to news at 7 o'clock. So that's how I started my interest in technology. And then I started repairing even the neighbors' watches and clocks and things like that. So by the time I was going to high school, I was really like, I was sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something with my hands and something with technology. So fast forward, I finished high school. I went back home. I was looking for a job. I didn't come from a very good background. We were not very rich, so we were any penny that could count. So I was actually looking for a job, not thinking of going any further yet. I got a job in one of the tourist attractions in my home area. It's a tourist lodge. I worked for about a year or 2. Then I saw an advert in the newspaper that they wanted engineers for telecommunications, actually technicians. The Kenya Post and Telecoms Corporation, that was the only telecommunication company then, was looking for technician trainees. So I said, wow, this is my opportunity. So I applied. And about like in 3 months' time, they called me for an interview. I came for this interview, and there were so many people. I think we were more than 300 people, and like 5 girls. So I did the interview with very little hope, and then I went back home, and within a month or so, they called me for an opportunity to study. At the same time, they were paying us a stipend, so they were training us to be technicians. For 3 years, I was Post and Telecommunications Corporations, doing very well. I was the only lady in a class of 25 people. I always topped the class. I think the fact that I came from a very marginalized area, and there's resilience that poverty had taught us in our home, I think that's what made me excel, because we always had a culture of hard working. My mom was the kind of lady, when you are number 1, you would still have to answer why you didn't get 100% and got 98. What happened to the 2 marks? So a culture of hard work was instilled in us very, very early. I come from a family where we were 9 kids. I'm number 6. So survival of the fittest, so to speak. So here we are. I came to college. I finished after 3 years. I graduated. Started working now in a town in Rift Valley called Nakuru. I was a radio technician then. So what they did in college is when you first enter, you're all doing the same thing, and then they start grading us. The very best end up taking the longest training, and they're the ones who become radio engineers. Then there would be those who are like transmission engineers, then there would be those switching engineers, all the way to the ones who would be doing just terminations or installations of telephones in their homes of customers. So I was really like part of the top, and we were only 5 of us. There were 4 young men and me, and we were radio engineers. So we were posted all over the country, and I was sent to Nakuru to start work. While I was working in Nakuru radio, that is like maintaining the entire Rift Valley region, really. I mean, that's, if you look at the Kenyan map, that's a big region where we were maintaining all the telecommunications equipment in that region. We would be sometimes driving at 3 a.m. in the morning to go, and there's one town that is down, so we have to revive it before the customers wake up in the morning. We would be getting stuck because we don't have very good roads, and pushing these cars all the way. It was an adventure, just being part of that team. But we were really doing a great job. So somewhere along the way, I saw another advert in the newspaper saying that UNESCO was sponsoring 8 women from all over the world to go and study telecommunications in Russia, fully sponsored. I was like, I lift up my hand, I want to be there. So I started applying. I had to come to Nairobi, which is the capital, and fill in my application. And now they were like, okay, then if we take you, where are your documents? I didn't have a passport. I was a nomad. Where would I be having a passport? So we start looking for applying for the passport. Then I didn't have, to apply for the passport, you need a birth certificate. I know for many of you that doesn't make sense, but here in Kenya, you can live all your life and not actually have documents like birth certificates. You were born in the village somewhere, you're not born in hospital. So you can go through life. Maybe just what you might get in the end is an identity card. In Kenya, we have something we call identity cards, and that's what everyone needs for any transactions. But otherwise, birth certificates and passports are really documents of those who travel, not of everyone. So UNESCO helped me. I applied for a birth certificate. After a few days, I was able to get to start applying for my passport. Meanwhile, I was still working because somehow I wasn't quite sure how this will go. So I just decided to continue doing my work until when I was really sure that I was leaving. I literally resigned almost 2 days before I left. So I did all my documentation, and finally it was sure that I was leaving, and UNESCO bought me a ticket. So I took leave at least like 2-3 days. I went home to Samburu to say bye to my parents. I went around just saying, now I'm going, I don't know how long, I'm going to be away for 6 years because it was a 6-year scholarship. I don't know if I'll have an opportunity to come back, but whatever the case, I'll write and things like that. Then I come back again, and I was told by my boss, the best thing to do is to apply for an unpaid scholarship. Don't just abandon your job. You can get a scholarship, not a scholarship, unpaid leave. So I applied for 6 years school leave. It was granted, and after a few months, on September 13th, I left this country, 1990, going to Russia, a country I didn't know anything about. I didn't even imagine what the weather was like. But I was like, I'm coming back as an engineer. That is important for me. So I landed. When I landed at the airport, there was nobody waiting for me. Apparently it was, there was a holiday, a very long holiday, a 3-day holiday. And the person who was supposed, from the UNESCO office, who was supposed to have come to pick me, was away in Siberia on holiday. So I learned in this nation, I don't know anything about the language. I don't understand even what is written. I am feeling so cold. It was 13 degrees. That was too cold for me. So I'm here shivering at the airport and wondering, now what do I do? So anyway, finally, I think I go to a place called, written in tourist. That's the only word I could read. And I went to that place and they said, there's nothing they can do. I just need to get a taxi and go to a hotel. So I went outside there. They called for me a driver and I got into a taxi. And I said, take me to UNESCO offices. So they take me all the way to the UNESCO offices. And I find them closing because the whole long holiday was just about to begin. I just find one old lady there and she said, there's nobody in the office and she can't keep me there. She has no information about me. So can I go and come back on Monday or something? I was like, where do I go? So she talks to the driver and the driver takes me to a hotel called In Tourist Hotel. So I go to that hotel and I'm like, okay, I'll stay here until Monday then and look for the UNESCO people. So I go to the tourist hotel and they said, oh no, you can't stay here. There's a visa, there's some document you should have come with. Whoever was speaking you should have stamped somewhere. And I'm like, I don't have, I'm going to stay here. And they said, we can't give you a room until you have that. It's some kind of temporary visa or something. Now I'm cold, I'm hungry. The last meal I had was in the flight. I am really miserable. I'm like, if I had a return ticket, I would have forgotten about this education and gone back home. Anyway, so the lady closes the office and refuses to give me a room. So I just sit in the corridor stubbornly. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay here. Call the police if you have to. I was figured if they call the police, I'll tell the police to take me to the Kenyan ambassador. So anyway, they didn't call the police on me. They left me on the corridor. Around 10 p.m. or around 11 there, the cleaner came, an old lady came and threw a blanket on me and a pillow and told me, made a sign to say that she didn't give it to me. I just found them there. So I said, thank you. We could hardly communicate. We were doing sign language. So I covered myself and slept. In the morning, the receptionist comes and finds me still there and says, no, you're going to put us into trouble. So I said, look for the Kenyan ambassador's number or somebody and call them. So of course she calls, but it was a holiday, nobody picked. So I said, you must have the resident's number. So they looked, anyway, finally they were able to find the education attaché or somebody, and around 4. Now this is the second day. They came and picked me up. I was hungry, tired. When I just saw them and they greeted me in Swahili, I broke down and wept. Anyway, so they took me to where I was supposed to have been taken to. That is the university hostel, where now they're supposed to, all the university foreign students report to that place before you are assigned which town you're going to be studying. So that they did my medical tests and everything and assigned me to go to St. Petersburg. So this was in Moscow. So they assigned me to go to St. Petersburg. And the very next day, we were put in a train with several others who had been there, and we were taken to St. Petersburg. We arrived at St. Petersburg, and it's cold. It's about, actually, at that time, I think it's autumn, but for us Africans, it was just cold and cold. But anyway, they put me into a preparatory university where we learned the language and things like that. So I was there for a year, learned Russian language, began to learn maths, physics, and world in Russian, so I could get the different terms, scientific terms and things like that. So we graduate from there and now go we are allocated to our various universities. Some go to the civil universities, others go to the medicine school, and we went to the telecommunication engineering school, which was called St. Petersburg State University for Telecommunication. in the name of Bonch-Burevich, called after Bonch-Burevich, a famous scientist. Well, that's my landing in Russia. So for the next 5 years, that's where I was, doing various things, enjoying myself totally, dreading the cold. It was the first time I saw snow in that country, in St. Petersburg, a beautiful, beautiful town in Russia. So first year, second year, I think during the second or third year, I met this Ghanaian man who was in the same school, who later on became my husband, and we started a family in Russia. But anyway, in that school, I met amazing scientists. I met teachers who were innovators, like my TV teacher was the one who invented the laser, the CD, you know, like that technology of CD and laser. I met, DVDs. I met people who were just inventors in their own rights. And for me, I was like, I could never have landed at a better school. I learned so much in almost every coursework that we did. We were designing things that they were going to use in industry, not just things that were being used anywhere else. When I did my last project, I did signal compression. And the most interesting things, because I did from TV signals and video signal compression, when I went to the library, to the public library, to learn about the history of TV signal and all that, I learned that it's from that university, the Moika, they call it Nabrijna Moika, that's at the shores of the Moika River. That's where the first signal was tested. I was like, wow, if I don't get anything out of here, surely it would be a shame. So, I mean, when you just look at the Hall of Fame of that university, you can't help but work so hard. So I kept telling myself, my name will be here one day. I will also graduate with a first class honors. And I kept urging myself on, despite the culture change, despite the weather that I had never experienced before. I said, if I can settle it in my mind to enjoy what I'm going through now, if I can put it in my mind that this is going to be good for not just for me, not just for Kenya, but for the entire Africa, then I can focus on what I'm doing. And that's what I did. Along the way, definitely, I got married, made a lot of friends, had fun. Our daughter was born, Ruth. I haven't introduced my family. We have 5 children. Our firstborn is Emmanuel. Second is Luna, Ruth, Irina, and Sveta. And that's where the name of our company, Elris, comes from, Elris Communication Services, just as they follow each other. Emmanuel is a telecoms engineer like us. Me and my husband, we are both telecommunications engineers. Emmanuel is a telecoms engineer. Luna is a medical doctor. She works in Norway right now. She's a PhD holder, did a very amazing research on ocular, it's a very long word, but something about stem cells research for the cancer of the eye. Then Ruth is a medical engineer, but currently working with us. She went to school in Britain. Luna went to school in Hungary and did her PhD in Liverpool in the UK. Irina went to the US, but didn't finish. She studied an aerospace engineering course, didn't finish. Has come back home for a break, but we expect her to go back. And then Sveta, who is the last born, is in Michigan. She's in Aquinas College doing biology and music. She has just gotten accepted in MSU, Michigan State University, for a PhD in neuroscience. She graduates this May and comes back to the US to do a PhD in September. So that's the family. So anyway, once we came back home, we started looking for work. Unfortunately, my husband says Africa wasn't ready for us. So for 5 years, we were jobless. We were not employed to be paid, but we did voluntary work. We started training various technicians or acoustics, particularly the people who work in churches and who do public address systems. In Africa here, you just start by trying it, let's say in functions and things like that. So you don't really have any formal education for it. So we dedicated ourselves to training those ones. I started teaching at some point at the university. I was teaching ICT and computer science. And then finally in 2000, we came back in 1996. In 2000, finally we got employment. First, my husband got employed by a group that was representing Sony in East Africa. So he started with broadcasting. And then I joined him after I graduated the class I had in the university. I joined him and we started a telecommunications branch of this broadcasting company. And so I was working with those ones for about a year. Then a Norwegian company that was about the same time in 2000, we had mobile telephony now come to Kenya, and a big company by Vodafone called Safaricom was born in Kenya. And so this Norwegian company was working under Siemens. The Norwegian company was called Remi, and they employed me. So we were the first ones to start building sites, telecommunication sites for Safaricom. In 2 years' time, my husband joined me in this Remi, and we were there until 2004 when we stepped out and started our own company, Elris Communication. Well, starting Elris was not easy because the only reason why we left employment was our values were not quite matching with the owners of the Remi, or the management, really, not the owners, the management, because we kept having clashes about various things they were doing that we didn't agree with. So we stepped aside and started doing Elris Communications. Our plan was to find out what we could do with our hands, maybe start doing something, just repairing some things and all. But when we went to report to Safaricom to say we are handing over, these are the guys who are taking over from us, the manager in Safaricom said, no, where are you going? They said, oh, we're going home. We're going to see what we can do. And they said, no, here is work. Go and do this project for me tonight. It was a service affecting work, so we had to put off a site, and then, so we could only do it from midnight. So we went to site. The first work we had in Elris was me, my husband, Francis Djirackor, and Emmanuel, our son, who was on half-term then. So he was on a break. So we went and did the work and finished it. And then we came back and reported we are finished. By that time, we didn't have a company because we hadn't really registered the company then. So we were told, okay, start registering the company, and here is another job. So from day one, we had a job after another, We were engaged throughout. And the company grew, ended up employing over 100 people. And one of the things that we believe from day one was we were going to build technical capacity, because the kind of knowledge that we got in Russia was so practical and so easy to give to anyone else. So we said there were some basic jobs that were being done here by foreigners because it was believed that Kenyans didn't have the know-how and the training to do it. So we went out of our way to really train. Even when we were in Remi, we really tried to train like riggers. These are people who would like climb towers and do the physical work. We were like, anyone can do this. They just need to know how to do this. Then somebody needs to invest in them and tell them how to do this. So I trained a lot of people, and we ended up swapping back a lot of foreigners with Kenyans. So when we started Elris, one of our main goals was to definitely train. So we take like, we at any one time, we take interns from the university, we take from technical colleges, And much as they've done all the theory, they haven't had an opportunity to do practical work. So we employ them, or we at least give them some stipend as we train them. And then other companies are able to take them up. And then, of course, one of the things that almost automatically happens is most of the lady engineers and interns and trainees would come to me because they are like, I would understand because I am a company owner and I am a lady. So one of the things that we do in this nation is we have trained the most technical ladies in this field. And it's been very exciting when I go even sometimes to Safaricom and I meet some of their current managers, and they would stop me and say, hey, I need you to meet so-and-so. And then I'm like, okay, I'm meeting your boss, how are you? And they're like, and they'll proudly say, Josephine trained me. Josephine was the first one who took me up a tower. I'm so happy that she invested in me and trusted me. So it's been a joy and a great journey to walk. But I just want to say, besides the fact that mom made us such hard workers, and the fact that we come from a place where you have to be resilient. I mean, it's a real hard place. They are arid and semi-arid lands where water even is scarce, let alone food. One of the things that pushed me to do engineering was the fact that I thought, if we could be able to do things ourselves, if we could be able to make things, like even if we could be able to learn how to find water. I noticed how there would be missionaries, Italian missionaries, Catholics, that would come and they would be walking around with some gadgets and be able to identify where water is and then drill a borehole. And in the mission place, they would always have water, no matter how dry the rest of the land was. We would go there most of the time, actually, and fetch water from there. And I was like, I think engineering or technology or whatever it is that these people are using, at that time as a child, I didn't quite understand what it was. I think they help. If I could be able to learn and bring back this knowledge. And so one of the opportunities I got in 2017 was to come to Silicon Valley and a cohort of climate change that Singularity University was hosting for the entire summer. For actually like 4 months, I was in Silicon Valley, and all we were doing is finding solutions for climate change. I was like, wow. And as usual, I just applied. I saw this thing online. I was reading their newsletter, and I was like, wow, it's open for anybody. And they just said, if you can solve one of the world's biggest problems, and you believe that you can solve it, then come and join us. So you had to apply and give your story and your solution, and if there's anything that you have ever invented or anything. And I applied, and I was taken, and I was like fully paid. Thank God. So I came and spent that time there. And one of my greatest childhood dreams was fulfilled. I met some astronauts because we were in the NASA compound. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, this is so amazing. So the project I worked on when I was at Silicon Valley was giving water. I did a solution for getting water out of the air. And for me, it was to solve many of the times because I come from a nomadic place, when it's so dry, there's so much migration. They will migrate with their animals, sometimes all the way to Ethiopia, sometimes to Uganda, wherever they think there's pasture or wherever they think they'll be able to survive. And along the way, a lot of them die, because even much as the animals are resilient, they can stay for 3 days or so without water. Human beings can't live quite that long and beyond without water. So many of them die along the way. So I was just wondering, I just thought, if I could find a way of getting water, drinking water along the way. So we erect these water towers, and this is a mesh that would harvest water from the air, and they can reach there and drink and maybe just have a community center where they can spend the night before they move on to the next place until they find pasture and water for their animals. So that was what the project I presented at Silicon Valley. I haven't unfortunately been able to roll it out, although FAO and a few other USAID have applied for funding, and they want to prototype it and try it out in Djibouti before we start rolling it out here in Kenya. I'm so passionate about it, and I believe one time, even as elders, we will be able to do that. So that's me. It's been an amazing time.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and just kind of sharing different life experiences. So we're going to open it up for Q&As from attendees. If you have questions, please feel free to type it in the chat box. But I will start off with one that I had as I was listening to you. So early on, kind of you mentioned having a lot of different opportunities to study engineering through different scholarships and different awards and funding opportunities. So what is your advice for middle or high school girls who are looking at studying engineering and perhaps looking at scholarships? How can they kind of find those opportunities?
Oh. Well, one of the things that for us here is the UN. We have the UNDP headquarters here in Nairobi, and many times they give opportunities like those. And then, of course, now with these big telco companies, they are also giving opportunity for us to go to sponsor people. And I think for me, if you go online, like when we've been looking for many of our daughter who is now going to be doing neuroscience, when we were looking for scholarships for her, we just kept getting a lot of links sent to us. I think you, there in the Northern Hemisphere, so to speak, you have more opportunities than we do. There's so many companies that are willing to sponsor people to go into STEM, because that's where we solve a lot of world solutions, a lot of world problems. You see, major world problems are really solved by science. So many of these people, when we were at Silicon Valley, a lot of the people who were sponsoring us, there was WFP, because they wanted us to find solutions for food. There was Google were there because they wanted us to find solutions. There were people who were there sponsoring solutions for water and drought. So various people, so long as you can give a solution, people are willing to put their money there. So you first give your, like say, I would really like to solve this world problem. And then your money will, literally money will come your way.
Okay, awesome. And I don't think we have any more questions coming into the chat. So we're going to end with one last question, which is if you could go back, if you could go back and give a piece of advice to yourself when you were in like middle or high school, what would you say?
If I could go back, I would say, could I be more aware of my environment and the needs of my environment? I think I was very naive. I didn't see the needs. There was so much poverty around me. There was so much I could have done much more if I had focused. I would have found solutions for them earlier. But I just lived like a child running around playing, completely unaware that people were suffering around me. Yeah, so let's open our eyes, even as we're children, as we're young, let's open our eyes to what's happening around us, and let's be ready to step up and help.
That's a fantastic piece of advice.
Yes.
So we're going to end on that note, but thank you so much, Josephine, for being part of our field trip and for sharing your story with us.
Somebody asked if I enjoy my work.
Oh, yes. Okay. I see that. So do you enjoy your work?
I love my work. I love what I do. My best place of peace is when I am up a tower the higher the better. I'll go and lie down on the platform at 60 meters off the ground, and I just feel at peace. I'm like, oh, I love this. So yes, I do enjoy my work.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for just answering our questions and for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye.
For the opportunity. Bye.
Yeah.